Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling adult ADHD.
Yeah.
It's something, a lot of people still think mainly affects kids.
That's right.
But those days where focus just isn't there,
Yeah.
or keeping things organized feels, impossible. For many adults, that's not just an off day, is it?
No, definitely not. And that's what we're diving into today, the reality of adult ADHD, which is often misunderstood. Our aim is really to get a handle on what it is, how it actually shows up in adults, the kind of impact it has, and crucially, what support is actually out there.
Okay. And to guide us, we've got a couple of really solid sources. First is episode 53 of Lifelines by Supreme Medic ADHD in Adults, Symptoms and Support. That one features Dr. Sircha Ram Vishnoi.
Right.
And we're also looking at Dr. Vishnoi's article, same title basically, Adult ADHD Symptoms and Support from his Your Health Deserves a Lifeline series.
Great resources.
So let's get right to it. What is adult ADHD fundamentally?
Well, at its core, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition. It affects things like attention, impulse control, and what we call executive functions planning, organizing, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And what's really striking is how persistent it can be. Dr. Vishnoi mentions in that Lifelines episode something like 60% of kids diagnosed with ADHD, they continue to have symptoms as adults.
Wow, 60%.
Yeah. It's really not something people just, outgrow most of the time.
So it's definitely not just a childhood thing for many. And I think you mentioned it can look pretty different in adults versus kids. Less obvious running around, perhaps.
Precisely. In adults, that hyperactivity might feel more like an internal restlessness, like your mind is constantly buzzing, The main struggles often shift. We see more challenges with concentration, getting organized, managing time effectively. Both sources really highlight this shift.
That internal restlessness, I can see how that could be mistaken for something else, like anxiety, maybe?
Absolutely. Or just being seen as high-strung. It often means people don't recognize the underlying ADHD for quite a while.
Which makes sense why it might get missed or even misdiagnosed. The Lifelines episode points out it often gets confused with things like anxiety or depression.
Exactly. And that really underscores how nuanced adult ADHD can be. Because those symptoms can overlap, getting a clear picture is so important for proper diagnosis.
Right.
The Lifelines episode also lays out the three main sort of types or presentations of ADHD, which is helpful.
Yeah, let's quickly touch on those. So first, the inattentive type.
That's mainly difficulty paying attention, trouble following through on tasks, staying organized. Think zoning out in meetings, losing track of important papers.
Gotcha. Then, hyperactive impulsive type.
That's more about the restlessness, acting impulsively so, acting without fully thinking it through, finding it hard to sit still, controlling urges, maybe interrupting others a lot, or finding cues really difficult.
Okay. And the last one, combined type.
Yeah, pretty much what it sounds like, a mix of both the inattentive and the hyperactive impulsive symptoms. And it's really key to remember how this actually looks can vary massively from person to person.
Okay, that gives us a much clearer picture.
Yeah.
So let's get into the common symptoms now. The sources show how this can really filter into everyday life, sometimes quite subtly.
Yeah, it's fascinating and sometimes frustrating for the person experiencing it, how these symptoms weave into daily routines, affecting work, relationships, everything, really. Both Dr. Vishnoi's article and the Lifelines episode make this clear. Let's start with focus.
Right, the difficulty focusing. Your mind just jumping between thoughts, struggling to stick with a task, especially if it's, boring or repetitive. The Lifelines episode talks about struggling to finish projects. And the article adds things like frequently losing stuff, missing deadlines, forgetting appointments. It's more than just everyday forgetfulness.
Definitely. Then you've got impulsivity, which isn't just being spontaneous, is it? The Lifelines episode talks about snap decisions, maybe overspending, blurting things out in conversations, finding it really hard to wait your turn. The article links this to making hasty decisions without really thinking through the consequences.
And disorganization. I think most people feel disorganized sometimes, but this sounds like a more persistent struggle.
It often is, yeah. The Lifelines episode mentions struggling to keep work and personal life organized, constantly losing keys, phone, important documents. And the article echoes that trouble organizing tasks, managing time. Those executive function challenges like planning a project with multiple steps or even just getting a grocery list together and sticking to it.
And that difficulty with time management seems central.
Oh, absolutely. Chronic lateness, procrastination, always underestimating how long something will take. Both sources really hammer this home. It's usually not about motivation, it's how ADHD impacts those brain functions.
Okay. And what about restlessness? You said it looks different in adults.
Yeah, maybe not the constant running and jumping like in kids, but adults often describe this persistent internal feeling of restlessness, needing to be active, feeling agitated, finding it hard to just unwind and relax.
Right.
The article mentions feeling fidgety, maybe talking excessively, generally unable to chill out.
And there's an emotional side to this too, isn't there?
Hugely important aspect. The Lifelines episode talks about mood swings, emotional dysregulation, like really intense emotional reactions, irritability, feeling easily overwhelmed or frustrated.
Yeah.
And the article broadens that out to include other challenges like anxiety, maybe low self-esteem, which kind of makes sense if you're constantly bumping up against these other difficulties.
That really does make sense. If you're facing these hurdles day in, day out, it's bound to affect how you feel about yourself.
Exactly.
The Lifelines episode specifically calls out low self-esteem, feeling inadequate because of struggles in work or personal life. It sounds like it can become a bit of a cycle.
It really can. Yep. The struggles lead to feeling bad about yourself, which then makes it even harder to cope with the original issues. It's tough.
So as people are listening, they might be hearing some of this and thinking, that sounds familiar. When does it cross the line from just having occasional bad days to maybe needing to seek some help?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Lifelines episode gives some good pointers. Firstly, persistence. Are these symptoms sticking around? Have they been there consistently for years, noticeably impacting work, relationships, just daily life?
Okay, so not just a bad week.
Right. Secondly, if those difficulties managing time, attention, organization are causing real ongoing problems at work, maybe, or in your important relationships, that's another key flag.
And family history, does that play a role?
It often does. The episode mentions ADHD tends to run in families, so if you have close relatives diagnosed, it might increase the likelihood for you to. It's a genetic component.
Right.
And finally, that emotional regulation piece. If you find you're really struggling to manage your emotions, lots of mood swings, high irritability, that's also something the Lifelines episode suggests warrants looking into further.
Okay, so if someone does recognize these signs, what happens next? How does diagnosis work, and what help is available? It must feel quite daunting.
It can feel daunting, absolutely. But the good news is effective help is available. Both sources acknowledge diagnosis can be a bit complex sometimes, partly because of that symptom overlap we mentioned, and maybe because adult ADHD isn't always on the radar as much as childhood ADHD. But generally, the diagnostic process involves a pretty thorough evaluation by a qualified professional. That could be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or another clinician trained in this area.
And what's involved in that evaluation?
Usually, as both sources outline, it involves in-depth interviews. They really dig into your history, your current struggles. They'll assess symptoms specifically, look at the impact on your life, often using standardized questionnaires, too. Sometimes they might include cognitive tests or behavioral checklists as well to get a fuller picture.
And then treatment. If someone gets a diagnosis, what are the options? Medication often comes to mind first.
Medication is definitely a common and often very effective approach, yeah. The Lifelines episode mentions both stimulant types like methylphenidate, amphetamines, and non-stimulant options like atomoxetine.
Right.
These can really help improve focus, reduce impulsivity, and sometimes help regulate mood too. But it's usually just one piece of the puzzle.
So not just pills. The sources also mention therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. How does that fit in?
CBT is incredibly helpful for ADHD. The Lifelines episode explains it gives people practical strategies. Things for improving organization, time management, and also for developing better skills for emotional regulation.
Oh, okay.
And the article points out it's good for managing that negative emotional fallout, the frustration, the low self-esteem that can come with ADHD.
Makes sense. And what about other kinds of support, beyond meds and therapy?
Yeah, both sources stress coaching and support networks. ADHD coaches can offer really practical, tailored tools and strategies for your specific challenges.
Like a personal trainer for your brain.
Kind of, yeah. And support groups, as Lifelines mentions, can be invaluable. Just connecting with others who get it, who have similar experiences, that provides a real sense of community and understanding.
That sounds really important. It's good to know there are different angles. And what about things people can do themselves, lifestyle changes?
Oh, absolutely crucial. Both the episode and the article list several key strategies. Things like setting up a structured routine, Clear schedules, to-do lists, they can make a huge difference.
Okay.
Breaking big tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps, that's another big one. Minimizing distractions, trying to create a quiet, organized workspace if possible.
And just general healthy habits, I assume.
Definitely. Regular exercise is great for managing restlessness and boosting mood. Using tools, planners, apps, reminders, whatever works for you to stay organized. Getting enough sleep is non-negotiable, really, for brain function. And mindfulness techniques can actually help with focus and self-regulation, too.
Lots of practical things there.
Yeah, and it comes back to what the article says. Adult ADHD isn't some kind of personal failure. It's a neurological difference. It just needs understanding and the right support.
That is such an important point to stress. It's not about not trying hard enough. So, okay, as we start to wrap this up, what are the main takeaways for listeners?
I think the biggest thing is adult ADHD is real. It affects a lot of adults, often undiagnosed. There are clear symptoms that impact life, but importantly, there are effective ways to manage it.
Right.
From medication and therapy through to coaching and those lifestyle adjustments we talked about, help is available.
And reaching out for that help, as the sources really emphasize, it's not weakness. It's actually a really proactive, vital step towards living a better, more balanced life.
Exactly. I think Dr. Vishnoi put it really well in the article. He said, ADHD doesn't only affect children. Many adults live with it every day, often undiagnosed. Understanding is the first step toward managing and thriving.
That's a great quote to end on. And just one final thought for you listening. If some of this resonated today, if you related to these symptoms, maybe exploring it further isn't about finding something wrong. Maybe it's about understanding yourself better, how your unique brain works. So here's a question. What's just one small change, based on what we've discussed, that you could maybe try implementing today? Just one small thing that might make a difference for you.